Joining us for newspaper review has been by Mutihiri Ekpayong.
Thank you. Fayo Seni, Ayo. Hello. Please give me a high five. I didn't have my coffee this morning, but when I saw Rota's like, good morning, I was like, this is the morning show. It's so good to see you on the side of the table.
Good morning, good morning.
Morning, guys. All right, we've got so much to get into. It is quite a Monday morning, so let's get straight into the newspaper review. Of course, we do kick off with our very own newspaper of record, This Day newspaper. This day has a number of major stories, but let's start at the top of the paper, which documents how a report that says the North moves to draft Goodluck Jonathan into the 2027 presidential race. So we know that all of the pieces are coming together and people are trying to align as we very, very early, in a very early start to prepare for the road to 2027. That's a detailed report on that. I won't linger too much on it. I will move very quickly to the lead story, which is that queues everywhere as petrol scarcity spreads nationwide. Now, you've already unpacked what's going on with fuel scarcity in your analysis in the morning, but this details how marketers are shutting down their filling station, the prices exceeding 1,000 naira in some places, and the NNPCL insists that it does not owe $6.8 billion as reported by Reuters and blames distribution issues. However, just as an addendum with some breaking news that has come in, specifically from the cable is reporting that the president has approved a request by the NNPCL to utilize the 2023 final dividends due to the Federation to pay, guess what? Petrol subsidy. So the cumulative petrol subsidy bill from August 2023 will hit 6.884 trillion naira by December 2024, and this leaves NNPC unable to remit 4 trillion in taxes and royalties to the Federation. So all of the conversations we've been having around subsidy, is it there, is it not? There is not a shred of doubt anymore that subsidy is back. Those are the numbers, that's what's being paid, and we're sitting on 6.8, almost 7 trillion that would have been paid towards subsidy by the end of the year. Very big discussion to have, but we need to keep it moving because there are several other big items. Back to the front page of This Day, a conversation that continues to grow legs and develop, which is that the Chinese firm moves to confiscate the £20 million P&ID award in the UK, 2 presidential jets, 2 properties in Liverpool. Of course, this is concerning the dispute between Chinese firm Zhongshan and Ogun State government over contractual issues and matters there arising. One aspect of this that I would like to unpack, besides the fact that let's not just focus on the jets, there are also 2 properties in Liverpool in dispute here that was said to have been used for consulate services, and they also would like to foreclose on those. Now, one other aspect of this conversation is that I know on Friday when we discussed this, we spoke about legal jurisdictions, court proceedings taking place in the UK, the US, and France. However, I can also report that the arbitration award, that process actually took place in Singapore, and that there were other court proceedings in Quebec, in Canada. So that makes it Singapore, UK, US, France, and Canada, who all ruled in favor of this Chinese firm. Now, to the Daily Trust, which gives us the story from another angle. No NAS approval for the new presidential jet. Of course, this story, the Chinese firm and the seizure of the jets, brought to light, it was news to many, that a new presidential jet had been acquired, apparently including some members of the National Assembly. So the purchase of this jet did not go through the normal process of the NAS. It is not on the budget. However, Daily Trust reports that this jet was purchased by the use of a service-wide vote, which means that the National Assembly was not part of the approval process of the estimated $150 billion or $100 million, however much it is that they're saying this jet costs, because nobody actually has currently official figures as to how much this jet costs, and it's said to have landed in Abuja yesterday in anticipation of taking the president on his trip to France. What is the service-wide vote? Well, it's used for natural disasters, emergencies, security issues, strategic interventions, and other unforeseen circumstances. That's what the service-wide vote is usually used for, but in this case, Daily Trust is reporting that it has been used for the acquisition of a new presidential jet. Now, let's move to The Guardian that takes a different look at the ongoing saga between this Chinese firm and Ogun State. Below the lead headline, it says, Pat Utomi and former Governor Amosun trade words over contract violation amid calls for jet probe. So Pat Utomi also came to X yesterday and detailed what he says is his experience with the government of former Governor Amosun in Ogun State, and how he had investors and some money exchange hands and nothing came to pass. So he is saying in his own experience, he's validating what transpired with the Chinese company, and he's saying that, well, it's nothing new to the administration of Amosun in Ogun State. Well, still on The Guardian, again, fuel queues linger as traders await Dangote NNPCL refineries. Quickly to Business Day. Fuel, oil dominating the news today. We can't run away from it. Business Day is leading from Russia to Malta. How Matrix Energy imports dirty fuel. It details how Abdul Kabir Aliu, his business, has been able to bring in substandard fuel into the market. Remember, we've been asking about Malta. Well, this apparently is the response as to how the oil goes to be refined. It's taken from Nigeria, goes to be refined in Russia, then goes to Malta. The whole process is detailed by Business Day. Now we move to the New Telegraph. Again, fuel taking the lead as fuel scarcity bites harder. Price hits 980 in Abuja, 850 in Lagos. And then just above the masthead, it's a smaller headline, but I think it's significant because, as we're talking about all of these market reforms, the organized private sector are seeking an executive order to peg the customs duty rate at an exchange rate of 1,000 naira. So people are already going back to clamor for conversations where we're saying this floating exchange rate is not working, peg it in some instances. Now to the Vanguard. Food security is the focus on the front page of the Vanguard. Why grains importation won't happen soon by stakeholders. We celebrated the duty-free grain import executive order just last week here on the program. But according to the Vanguard, some stakeholders are saying that the federal government is saying that they're still fine-tuning some policy aspects and that customs is still waiting for the list of approved importers. So no movement yet on this great news that we celebrated with so much excitement last week. Seems like nothing is happening on the ground yet. Now to Punch, still focusing on food security. Punch is saying the food crisis may worsen as flood hits 10 states, farmlands in Sokoto, Kano, and Kebbi State. We're going to go to African papers really quickly. Daily Graphic in Ghana, of course, as the election in Ghana draws closer and closer. The Daily Graphic in Ghana is leading with Baumia means business. Of course, he's the current vice president, but he is he holds the presidential ticket for the ruling party, and he's unveiling his manifesto, which is focusing on jobs and businesses, the usual stuff we like to hear. Business Day, South Africa. More to come as JSE soars to a high. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange is enjoying and benefiting from calmer global markets as undervalued South African stocks begin to receive some boost from those calmer global markets. And very last but not least, international papers, The Guardian UK, leading with all that's happening with the quest for a ceasefire in the Middle East. Blinken joins 11th hour talks on Gaza ceasefire deal. We know that this is going to be a pretty big issue where the American election is concerned. So once you see Anthony Blinken joining the conversation where Joe Biden was said to have been firmly in control, it means the Democrats mean business with this. I want to close with this front page, which is from the weekend. However, this is a special gift to Rotus and Rufai, who are going to get riled up. New York Post, this is from the weekend, but it's generated so much conversation. The New York Post front page, after Kamala Harris shared her economic policies, led with this front page, reading communism. I'm hoping that we can put up that front page from the New York Post detailing communism and how critics are saying that Kamala Harris's policies are a return, or rather are a detour to socialism and communism. All right, so much to get through.
Yeah, so I don't know. Let's start with this day newspaper, Nigeria's newspaper of record, and the front page, right? The cues that you're seeing are impacting productivity. For every 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours you spend in a queue to get fuel is 1, 2, 3 hours that you cannot be spending doing this. So that's that. There's a hit on productivity for us. But this story on the cable that they are reporting, can you imagine for 1 second that the NNPC is a listed company on the stock exchange and pays dividends to shareholders. Imagine those dividends being deflected to pay for an inefficient thing like subsidies. Look, Transcorp came out with some news today. Transcorp Power, Transcorp Hotels, and Transcorp PLC, they are paying dividends to shareholders. I think it's about, 16 billion naira in total. So if you're a Transcorp shareholder and you have shares in Transcorp, the conglomerates or the hotel or power, the shareholders are smiling to the bank. The subsidy thing is inefficient. Everyone now knows that it's still being paid. For NNPC to not be able to remit taxes to the federation account, to not be able to pay dividends. Look at what the liquefied natural gas, NLG, is doing. Right, LNG is doing. This subsidy needs to be eliminated once and for all. I can understand the political ramifications and everything, but what we are losing for this fuel subsidy is debilitating. Look at almost 7 trillion. I mean, so it has to go. On Jonathan being floated as a candidate for 2027, that's vibes now. That's not going to fly.
Never say never, Brutus. I never say never.
Oh, you think,
yes,
okay,
in politics,
well, we'll be here
like football, anything can happen.
And then on Kamala Harris, look, the New York Post is a racist right-wing publication. They were the first ones that put DEI candidates, diversity, inclusion, and so on when she was first put forward to take over. So the New York Post is a troll publication.
The truth is, American people are concerned about her economic prowess.
But it's not communism.
Yeah, it's not communism. And Donald Trump has also leveraged that. He's always talking about the fact that she's not smart, she doesn't know anything about that. So if there's any weapon or anything he has over her, that's something that she must be very intentional about. And that's why I said that her outing at the DNC would be very critical to her campaign, especially also following that her one-on-one interviews, which she has come under criticism for not granting and speaking about the economy or her economic policies. But let me come back to fuel subsidy, and that cable report is very detailed and I believe important at this point. I asked a number of questions earlier when we were talking about the news earlier today, and one of the things we had said was that, okay, the NNPCL, there's a lot, touch light on them. People are asking questions, but they're not the only ones responsible in this. If we're going to take responsibility for this, and one of the things that have now come out from this report is that they've gotten permission from the president to be able to what they would have remitted to the federation account, Minister of Petrol, effectively, to allow them to pay subsidy. Now, what they said was that initially, when fuel subsidy had been announced to be gone, they had made 400 billion naira monthly in gains from that. But that was eroded as a result of the devaluation of the naira, affecting the income of NNPCL. So I'll just finish here by saying that this goes back to the initial conversation as to when fuel subsidy was removed, that it wasn't done well. Doing it at the same time as floating the naira was a bad idea, and we're seeing this play out.
Couple of things. I think this is about one of the most honest things I've seen in a while, out of all of this NNPC gamut and shenanigan. Truth is now, we now know where we are. So we are back to paying subsidies. I think the truth has come out. Despite the fact that they've denied it all this while. This was the way to go. This is what they have constantly done in the first place. Yes, it's hurtful. It's painful that we're not getting any remittances back to the federation account. But what's the way forward? And this is why I was arguing against floating the naira. You've seen the effect. You can see how it jumped. Now, the amount they're going to pay. So now that we know this, but I think what we should now do is, can't the NNPC ensure that all the refineries said will work, so that at least if we can even reduce the import costs and make our refineries work and take from what we produce locally to service our refineries and get local production going on and stop importation. I think that's another one. At least that will also reduce our forex costs. That's the way forward. As regards the New York Post calling Kamala communist, it's deliberate. It goes back historically to the 1930s in America, when there was a wave of communist-leaning and Hitler-leaning senators in America. It's deliberate. It's a dog whistle. So they know why they're doing it. and it's very unfair. There is no policy that is not social in nature. So the Republicans could keep being delusional that in the world we have today with a lot of inequality, you're not going to have a dent of socialism in your policies. They should continue.